back to Mondays with Mo. Our first session when we going to be discussing the business environment synoptic assessment. And this one is going to be purposed to give you some sort of an insight of the examiner's report from the AAT themselves. And we're going to look through individual questions, how the questions are structured, what expectations from the AAT when you're going to do these questions, and also how that's going to help you to achieve a greater results on this one. Then of course this is going to be helping you to obtain your level 2 certificate in accounting qualification. So here in this presentation, I have resources from Kaplan and Osborne Books. So props to them, guys. They're something we use a lot. We also use a BPP also, but unfortunately I don't have no resources from them yet. But in future I may have some from the other publishers as well. They're probably willing to lend us their resources to conduct these sessions. And then of course, without further ado, we're looking into this. So business environment synoptic assessment. What is the meaning of synoptic? The people are going to ask me, what does that mean? Synoptic is something of a synopsis, like at that point of a time. We're going to look back on what happened previously. So whatever we done up to that point, it will be tested on this exam. So therefore, if you're doing a level 2 qualification, most of the students who's doing the accounting qualification would have done 2 of the bookkeeping units. First one is ITBK. The second one is Principle of Bookkeeping Control, Introduction to Bookkeeping, and the Principle of Bookkeeping Control. Those 2 units are fundamental for your financial accounting. So what are you going to do? You're going to learn some business environment topics along with that one, and we test something together as a synoptic assessment, which covers what you've done already. But it doesn't mean they're going to be checking you thoroughly with everything you learned on your last 2 units. No, they're only going to check a bit of it. It's basically like about 15 to 20%. I'll put it that way, maybe 30%. Nothing further than that. But the rest of them is going to be solely based on business environment, but that will be intertwined, like they were like a kind of a inseparable triplets. We're looking at here, all 3 of them are connected to each other. So we're going to look at this exam. This is going to be 120 minutes long, 2 hours. So if you have standard timing, you get 2 hours to do 8 tasks. So those 8 tasks are varies in number of weightings. Some of the questions have 10 marks, some of them got 22 marks or 24 marks. I think it's 22. Yeah. And some questions got 7 and 6 marks. So you have to remember, please make sure you allocate enough time for bigger tasks, like bigger marks questions. And then of course, in that case, you can allocate some time for the next part, which you're going to be, which I explained to you earlier about incorporate previously completed ITBK and the POBC module. And then you also have theoretical knowledge will be tested on here. And finally, they will have objective test task with some writing tasks. So you will expect to write something here. So when I say writing, all of my students in the past, they used to, like kind of a scoff. Yeah, I hate writing. I didn't come here to do writing. I basically came here to do numbers. That's what the accountants do they? No, you're wrong, because you're not going to just do numbers. You also be tasked to do something extra. You expect to do reports. You expect to do memos. You expect to do planning. You expect to do presentations. And of course, you may have to communicate with other stakeholders on a regular basis. So in this business environment unit, that is what you're going to be tested in your exam. So here we have, sorry, so part of it is missed out. So purpose of it is understand the environment in which the business operates, covers contract law, CSR, ethics, sustainability. We'll say what is the CSR again, which we'll be doing it later. We'll talk about contract law. We'll look at the external business environment and the finance function, business communication and planning, and the role of information, how we deal with the information we gather and what are the purposes of it. We're going to look into that one. Okay, so this is in a nutshell, what are the parts they expect to do. You don't need to be an expert on any of this, what we said. It's just common knowledge. That's all you need. You probably do this by just reading the textbook or watching some videos online, or you may even do this by your general knowledge. If you know something, you can do trial and error, and then of course you will improve your proficiency of that given topic there. For example, if they're talking about contract law, you may know something about it already, but if you're not 100% sure, do some questions and then check your answers. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Or if you get it wrong, oh, now that I need to go and check it, why that is wrong. And then also we have an opportunity to revise and then improve on your answers. So here, these are the key areas for improvements according to what the examiner report says from the AAT website. So they're saying here, ensure the knowledge understanding gained from the level 2 introduction to bookkeeping and principal bookkeeping control is retained as a significant part of the level 2 business environment synoptic assessment, because that now you cannot let go. You need to make sure you hold on to that knowledge. And then also you need to look at that here, understanding content rather than learning rules and lists. You don't need to worry about learning everything to the word. No, just understand what is that meaning by that, how you apply that scenario to your fundamental knowledge when you're going to learn the synoptic assessment. We'll show you loads of practical questions as we go along. Okay. And then also, give me 1 second, please. Just try to keep an eye out on my timer. And then ensuring that the learning outcome, 1 means understanding the principle of contract law, it is not overlooked. While a small part of the assessment, it is a very important topic. So we will need to know what is a contract law. We need to make sure we put some emphasis on it. And then also reading all the information, each scenario, and in the task requirement carefully to ensure that the specific requirements are responded to with the content that is relevant to the business in the scenario. So you will be given a scenario. You need to remember every businesses are unique. They are different to each other. So certain aspects may be applied thoroughly. Sometimes you may not even have to do that one. So therefore you have to be careful with, do not paint everything with the same brush. You need to make sure every one of those information may be unique. And then also, therefore, it's very critical for the students to read all the information that is important here. All right. So do not ignore that fact there, because sometimes we miss out on when you're reading something and we miss out, like by accident, we left out a bit of information. Maybe that is critical to your final answer. So make sure you read everything carefully. So let's look at that first one. Task 1, different business types and their functions. All the time, this is going to be exactly your task 1. This covers impact of setting up different types of business entity and the different functions of a business. Students generally complete this task in less than half the time available, and it is one of the highest performing tasks. Students seems to be confident with the topics covered in the task. It's more likely to be lots of general knowledge, but you need to know them. If you don't know, you won't be able to answer them. So you need to make sure you read about it. So overall consensus, according to the AAT, students perform well. So we have a smiley face here. Yay. But it also carries 10 marks out of your 100. So it is also very critical. If you want to pass, you need to get all 10 of them right. If you have 10 questions, part of it there, every one of them has different weighting, but this one task can have 10 marks there. So therefore, you need to be careful. True or false question, they all count. So for example, here, a couple of questions. So let's go through that quickly, shall we? So the first one is that too typical from the different publishers? Okay, I've got Kaplan and Osborne next to each other to show you what different questions they can come up with. Following statement refers to different types of organizations. Indicate whether the statement are true or false by ticking the correct box. Now, first, the primary objective of a public sector organization is to make profit. So when I'm going to talk about public sector, you're looking at what is the meaning of a public sector. Public sector is most likely to be oriented with the government or any affiliations. That means their point is not to make profit. They are most likely for non-for-profit. For example, if it is NHS, it is a public sector organization. Is their purpose is making profit? I highly doubt it. But if you're looking at a private organization such as a supermarket, Tesco, what are you going to think about? Their job is to make profit. They're there to sell something to you to make profit so the shareholders can enjoy the a nice bit of a dividend for them for the investment they made in the company. So therefore, the statement is false. Now, can you see here? Most of them, you don't need to know the law. You don't need to know um, intricate knowledge of the contract law, taxation law, nothing. It's just general knowledge. They're saying the sole trader is required to register for corporation tax. Straight away, you know, sole trader, corporation tax. Ooh, they're nothing to do with each other. False. Partnership in a partnership are personally be liable for the debts of the business. Absolutely. Why? They're unlimited partnerships, unlimited liability for them. So therefore, partners will be liable for the debts of the business according to their profit share ratio. So that is true. Limited companies run by the shareholders, owned by the directors. Now you're looking at that there and say, oh, they're run by the shareholders or owned by the directors. Flip it, then it makes sense. It is run by the directors but owned by the shareholders. So that statement is also false. So can you see that here? 4 marks there. How easily you can lose one of those marks? Very easily if you don't read the whole question. So make sure, guys, every one of those questions is important because you're going to get to the writing part. You rely on these marks to help you to supplement any shortcomings you may have in your writing skills. But of course, we don't want to leave that. We don't want to slouch on that. We're going to improve that as we go along. We will talk about that later. Match the description of the type of organization. It's very description there, organizations there. Very straightforward. I'm going to look at it here. To help a community or a cause, who's going to do it? Of course, you know, if you want to help the community, you're not making profit. Charity. Oh, not for profit organization. Straight away, I know that will be the right answer. So what is the next one? An individual. Straight away, you know, sole trader. 2 or more people forming a business that has unlimited liability. It's a partnership. 2 or more people forming a business, it has an unlimited liability. If the same thing has limited liability, they call it LLP, limited liability partnership. But then also, if you look at that here, a form of a business that has a separate entity to its owners, that is going to be a company because it is legally and accountingly, it's going to be different because the companies, the owners only lose the money they invested in. They cannot be held liable for any of the company's debts. Okay, therefore, it's very important to distinguish what is the meaning of the limited liability and the unlimited liability. Now, 10 marks, it's very easy to gather in this kind of a questions there. I haven't put the whole questions there because we wouldn't have time to go through all of them and discuss the writing task. So now let's look at the second task there. That's 10 marks for this. Second task is also a similar kind of a theoretical subject. It's asking about the finance function and its information requirement and sources and its role within wider organization. So it's going to be something how the finance team contributed to the success of an organization and the role of information in the work of finance function. This task is highest performing task despite typically spending half of the time available to completing it because the students, they normally spend a long time on this one, but they do get well. This is an area student generally very comfortable with, although marks could perhaps be further improved by taking a few more minutes to ensure all the information are read correctly. This information is in black and white in the examiner's report. If you go to the aat.org.uk, go to your course. If you go and look at your actual modules, there are loads of information there. If you're going to click on the practice assessments, green light test, real life scenario, e-learning, and then also you have what do you call the report from the marking scheme. So what they're going to do, they will explain to you how these questions come across for wider range of students. So let's see some feedback from it. In this also students perform well. This one carries 13 marks. So look at these questions here. They're saying here, organization needs to provide information to both internal and external stakeholders. You just have to realize what is the meaning of internal, somebody within the business, external, anybody outside that. That's it. Straightforward. Can you see sales and marketing team at Palanio Limited who all work remotely, even though they're not within the business premises for purpose of business, they're internal. They work for the company. So therefore, they will be internal stakeholders. Palladium Limited's bank, straight away, that is outside the business. They're not part of the Palladium. They're what do you call a supplier or customer or their bank. In this scenario, they will be called an external. They're based in the same town as the company's head office. It does still not matter. Why? They're not the same company. So they will be external. The community of Crowhurst, the town where Palladium Limited is based, again, they are, even though in the same town, they're not part of that business. So they will be external. So 3 marks there. What knowledge you need to know about this? Nothing almost. If you already been this far, you already know the answers for this straight away. And then, which 3 of the skills and characteristics below demonstrate effective communication skills? So can you see here, communication skills is not how you talk to other people. It's also how you interact with them. So that means you probably say you give and you also be ready to take. And you also needs to know everybody expect the same way that you be treated, you wanted to be treated. So let's see that here. Listening to others, is it important? Of course, because you can't just keep on blabbering like I'm doing here. Oh, I'm really sorry because I'm at the moment teaching. But if I'm just do that and if I don't get no feedback from you, that is not an effective communication skills. So we will normally ask the students, what do you think about it? Once you finish teaching, any questions? That is when you're going to let the other party speak. So they're going to speak and then you're going to go there. You don't interrupt them. You listen to them. So that is very effective communication skills. Taking notes during a meeting and clarifying key points at the end. Absolutely. Can't complain about that, isn't it? You're not disturbing the proceedings. You're going to say, oh, I'm going to say, take some quick notes. Then my time is arrived. Oh, can I have a question, please? Yes. It is also very effective communication skills. Not giving eye contact with the person you're speaking to. So you're speaking to there. Imagine that I'm doing the session. I'm looking there. No, that will not get on well with people. That way they think they're trying to avoid you. So there will be no cohesion and the people will not feel like, okay, we're not getting anywhere because I don't feel like they're listening to me. They're distracted. So that is not an effective communication skills. Standing, listening with the arms folded. Nice. Imagine that you do that and then straight away people who speak into you or who's communicate with you feel like you are kind of hostile towards them. They may think, okay, maybe they don't want us to do that. So it is not an effective communication skills. Nodding occasionally to acknowledge a strong point in the conversation, because I can see some of the students when we talk about this, they do nod because they knew, oh, that makes sense to me. So that is an automatic, what do you call, they call involuntary reaction of you to say, I agree with it. That means the speaker feels, oh yeah, my communication is going through to them. Yes, absolutely. You may be nodding as well now. So that means what I'm saying to you, it is effective towards you. So we found 3 of those already. But am I somebody I'm happy with if I find my all answers? No, I will read through all of it to make sure I eliminate the incorrect answers. They're saying here, tapping your pen on the desk. Imagine that if somebody do that while I'm in my class, they will be the first one to out of the door, because I will not tolerate if somebody is compromising my way of communicating with the students. And if that's going to be stopped, I'm going to ask them to leave. And then also in a business, if you do that while you in a meeting, your boss, what they're going to do, they're going to tolerate that? No, possibly get disciplined for that as well. So you need to make sure you need to have some sort of an effective way of communicating with everybody and your other peers. Okay, so in this kind the question A, B, and E will be the right answers there. So now let's look at that. 2 questions down. Now this the second question, sometimes do get it on the same one. So if you remember, I mentioned it's got 13 marks there. So the first questions might be like that way, and the second part might be like this way. This is how you plan your work effectively. So let's have a quick look at it. I will not spend too much time with that one. I'll go through that quickly what we have. So here they're saying the Pestos, you worked there for 6 weeks and you've been closely working with Simone to understand the task involved. So you work from 9 to 4 and Monday to Friday. Each finance period is 4 weeks. You plan your week work accordingly. And then they're saying here there is some important task you do. So here, according to this, these one all here, where's my mouse? Okay, I found my mouse. All this management accounting task, and this is all your financial accounting task. Can you see that here? So you have different weeks, so do you have different work to do on that particular week, and that is only get done once a month according to this. That's how they're going to do it. But the financial task, it's done weekly basis. That means every week the same task will repeat there. So now what we're going to do, we are saying we are working on the start day of the Monday of week 4. You have been asked to attend staff meeting at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and lunch should be taken 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So there is no reason I have to do anything differently to the timing they're given you. So if you have a lunch to take, you take the lunch. There is no reason you have to do anything else there. So let's say here, I'm going to quickly change this to a pen. So let's say here, I'm going to say this is lunch. Okay. So that is 12 to 1 p.m. So now what they have to do here, there is some task you need to do on that day. They're asking you here, complete the following task for Monday, the week 4. Refer to the management and the financial accounting schedule and list the task in order to completion on the table set out below. So we got the lunch there. And also, can you see here, we have a meeting. So I'm going to say here, this is going to be my, oh, hold on. That's my meeting. So I'll put M here. Okay. Now, what else we do on that day? So if I'm going to look at it now, according to that, week 4 on Monday, in my list, I have this variance analysis. I need to fit that there in that one of those times. But also, if I'm going to look at it here, on Monday, I have this and that, both of them for 2 hours each. So there is a dilemma for me because I can do this in one go, or should I split it? Because can you see here, there is gaps because these two will not fit 2 hour slots on a consecutive time. Because of the meeting, some of the task has to be reapportioned. But we also have to remember the time we take for that variance analysis, only 1 hour also, but there is no deadline like these two. They have a deadline. So how would I going to approach it? Here, this is what AAT normally does. The AAT's answers are more flexible. You don't have to prioritize anything unless there is a time constraint here. So in this scenario, you need to do this process of sales invoice. I'm going to say SI here. If I'm going to do that, I need to get that done by that time. And the purchase invoices gets done by that time. So what I'm going to do here, there are multiple options. First thing is we do the time critical ones first. Process the sales invoice first. Process the purchase invoice first. So we don't leave the task until the deadline. So if I do here, sales invoice, purchase invoice, and then the last one, variance. If I done that way, you are absolutely fine. That is perfect. It's not a problem. Whichever the way you done this now, these order, it's fine. Or you could do this way. Can I do the variance analysis first, then go to meeting, then I have the sales invoice, then my lunch, finish my sales invoice, then I do the purchase invoice, then I do the purchase invoice. Is it okay? Absolutely. It's also fine because you're not compromising your deadlines. You're still well within the deadline. Or could I do this way? I do the sales invoice, meeting, sales invoice again. I'm going to just put S. I'm going to say L here. Then I'll do the variance. Then I do the purchase invoice. I do the purchase invoice after that. Is that fine? It is also fine. Those 3 methods are absolutely fine. But what I will not recommend, I will not say do the sales invoice, meeting, variance, lunch, and then the sales invoice. I will not do that. Why? You're basically splitting your task. We need to do that for 2 hours. It doesn't mean you bring another task which is something you do on a regular basis within that time. What could that lead to you? This could effectively break your momentum of what you're doing now, unless it has been asked by a boss. You halfway through your task and they ask you to do something urgent, then you break it, it's fine. But in this scenario, I will not go for this. Okay, and these three options are acceptable in my view. And then also AAT did agree, because some students said to me they had similar kind of questions in the past, and then two of the students say, no, I done it this way, and they both got the full marks. And compared to the other student, they had different. I'm talking about very old style. I'm talking about the 2016 format, and they had similar kind of questions, because I cannot discuss the newer questions at the moment, because obviously they are all subject to kind of a scrutiny. We can't discuss any exam questions realistically for the new qualification. Okay, so now let me erase all of that. Eraser. Hey, all of them gone. No, one more there. Now, the next question we have. Oops, sorry. I need to go back in there again. Okay, now the CSR, the task 3. This is also a theoretical part. Here on the CSR, we're going to talk about ethics and also sustainability. CSR, ethics and sustainability are topics that the student seems to understand well. Despite generally spending significantly less than half the time available to complete this task, students generally score very high marks, and it's one of the highest performing tasks in the assessment. So here we say here they perform well, and it carries 14 marks. So it's a lot of marks there, which the students don't leave it hanging about. You just make sure you have perform well on these kind of questions as well. Again, they are theoretical. So here, they're talking about the fundamental ethical principles there. There are 5. If you already know them from your previous level 1 knowledge, or you already learned them about it, it's go as POPIC. That's why I call them POPIC. It is going to be professional competence and due care. You have objectivity, professional behavior, integrity, and the C of POPIC is going to be confidentiality. So there are 5 ethical principles. So they're saying here, which one is what? It is how you remember your definitions. You don't need to memorize it. You just think about it from the practicality side of it. So if I'm going to say, if something of me being honest and truthful, we're going to call it what? I'm going to be an integral person. That means my integrity is not compromised. I'm honest and truthful, and I'm straightforward on that. So that is what integrity means. So when an employee sticks to the facts, we're going to call that employee objective. So that ethical principle is objectivity. That means I stick to facts. That means people cannot sway me. They cannot influence me. I can't be acting biased towards making a decision. So my objectivity will be compromised. So in that scenario, I have to make sure I need to stick to facts. I can't go with fiction or with somebody, what my boss telling me, how's my what is that, so the supervisor telling me, how's my customer wants the work to be done. No, you need to follow the facts. So therefore, that is what objectivity means. An employee does not bring the profession into disrepute. That is how we behave within the profession and the outside of it. So if I'm going to be a teacher or an accountant, I need to make sure I hold myself very high to my professional standards. So that means if I do something to bring my profession into disrepute, that questions the professional behavior of that person. So that means I can be disciplined by the professional bodies or even by my employers. So I need to make sure I don't bring the profession into disrepute. The last one, of course, the employee develops their knowledge and skills. It is something you do regularly in your place of work or your personal life. We call that continuous professional development, CPD. You probably heard about that. So that is all down to your competence and due care. Imagine that you are an accounting, what do you call, you're working for an accounting firm. Somebody's coming and asking you to do the new tax return, which is suddenly changed last month. Okay, and then you're saying, oh, I haven't had no training on that. So are you supposed to do that? No. Why? You're not competent. You're not giving enough due care to the customer's query. So what are you going to do? You need to go and speak to somebody who are properly trained and then also aware of the changes being made to the tax legislation. So therefore, it is important they develop their knowledge and skills continuously. That is what the CPD is there for. And then similarly, you may have questions like this as well. Guys, don't worry, this is not a written question because I'll explain in a minute. Bobble Limited is committed to improving its corporate social responsibility CSR activities. The managing director, Hannah Southill, has recently attended a course on CSR, and has made notes of some implementations that the company could look into. She's interested in how the organization can improve with regards to the 3Ps. Normally, CSR is is actually standing on 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars are called the people, the planet, and profit. All 3 of them are important for a company or a business or an entity to be sustainable for a foreseeable future. That corporate social responsibility bit, it is something we tell ourselves, this is what we're going to be. It is not compulsory. It's not by law we are doing it. We are doing it because that is morally right for that organization, because that is the way you're going to prove to all the stakeholders involved here, we are here, but we are here for you. We are here for the planet, and we are also here for us because we also have to look after ourselves. It's no good to me if I'm going to be just going to be caring for you, because you have to care for me as well. That's why the self-care is very important here, guys. Business needs to make profit to make sure they are also sustainable in that way. So they're asking you, matches Hannah's notes below to the correct categories, and are they benefit to people, planet, or profit? Not all notes to be needed. So here I have some lists there. So here there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I think it's about 10 there. I think nine there. So I need only 6, and some of them are, in that case, the red herrings, which we don't use it anywhere. So they're saying here, Bobble Limited should look into recycling waste more efficiently. So what is that going to help with? That is going to be more like a planet thing, isn't it? So because if recycling means you are making sure the planet look after itself. That's good. You should ensure staff work at least 20 hours overtime per month. That is not good for people. Maybe good for your profit, but it's going to compromise the people, because who wants to voluntarily work 20 hours every month extra than their contractual hours? Because that's why you have something called working time directive. That means if you want to do more than your contractual hours, you need to say, yes, I am opting out of that WTD. So they cannot force you to work more than your contracted hours. Most of the time, they sneakily will tell you, oh, you just have to write it off so you can get overtime. But not everybody willing to do the overtime, isn't it? We are living in a world. We're going to give more emphasis on the people like me. I just will do my contractual hours. Probably sometimes if it's a business requirement, somebody's not well, I have to cover somebody. Yes, I'm more than happy to do so, but I will not do it every month. No, because that means it's a permanent job. I just not have the time and the energy to do that extra work. So I would say that that is not one of the CSR policy. We should leave machinery switched on overnight. This will reduce the risk of downtime in production on the following day. What are you doing by like that way? If you leave the machinery switched on overnight, you're basically increasing your carbon footprint. So that means it's not good for your planet. It's not a good option. Rather than traveling to venues for the meeting, we should hold virtual meetings. Oh yeah, of course. Not a bad idea, isn't it? Because just do that on Teams, guys, instead of all of you have to travel to meet me somewhere in the middle of England. Imagine that that's going to happen. I'll probably see 1 or 2 faces maximum. But we're doing that online. Everybody have the time Absolutely fine. But which one it is? Is it going to be for the people? Is it going to be for the planet? Or is it for the profit? I don't think it's profit. It might be people, but it's more likely to be planet because you're going to reduce the carbon footprint there. So let's see here. We may think is it people or planet, but we'll see that. We should look into cycle to work scheme. What is that going to do for you? Well, cycle to work scheme is going to be what? It's more of a people thing or planet thing. So also we can look at it in a way, it could be people, but it could be also planet. It's definitely not for profit. But if you do that, you're going to give a benefit to the people who is going to cycle to work. We should look into that one. That is a really good option. So it might be a people category, but let's see, it might be planet as well. We don't know. Okay, we'll check it in a minute. Then no bonus schemes at present. We need to look into this one. So what is that going to do? The bonus scheme is going to help with the people, isn't it? Because the people are going to look at it here from the bonus side of it. It's going to give them some sort of an encouragement for to give their best to the company. So that means it is also going to help to look after your own employees as well. So that might be a really good option there to offer them a bonus scheme there for encouraging production and then also encouraging the people to perform better. So that might be a good option. I heard perk box being mentioned with staff discount scheme. We need to see if our staff members would be interested. Yeah, why not? We can think about that as a people category as well. So we will have that option there as well. Now let's see we have any more. Now increase the management and the supervisor's salary by 15%. This will boost morale for all staff. I don't think so, because the management and the supervisors are going to be increased. And how about me? I'm doing all the work. They're just there to manage and supervise me. So they're going to reap the benefit of my hard work? I won't say it's a good idea. So I will say no. Now let's look at the next one. You should look at outsourcing some of our marketing function to reputable agencies. It will free up our colleagues. Then we can carry out other duties when required. So that is going to do for us. It is also going to help with certain options here. So which one you think it might be profit out of all of this? So profit, if I'm going to think about it, the third one could be a profit in that scenario, because if I switch it off, my electricity is going to be down, my cost is going to be running down. Yeah, so I think that could be a profit option there, even though that is going to be good for the planet, but that is also going to reduce my cost. So therefore, for 6 marks, you'll be able to find 6 of those categories there. But most importantly, the ones we don't do here is leave the the machinery on. That is not a CSR option. You also can look at it. What is that? The supervisor salary is 15%. It might not be a CSR option there. So what else you think it's going to be not a CSR option, because it's only 6 marks. So I'm expecting only 6 answers, not 7. So one of them could not be the right thing. So let's say here, big box. Let's check the chat. Anybody has any ideas? What do you think about it? So let's bring the chat back up. Unfortunately, we cannot add anybody manually. They can only click on the link there. I think somebody trying to log in there. Yeah, unless you can't go through the link, because we cannot add people manually because they are all external, because this is not something like a standard Teams. It's actually my work team. So it's almost impossible. So what do you think, guys, out of these, which one you think it might not be an answer? I'll check the answers later on. I'll come back to you then. We will come back to this particular scenario later. Normally in your exam, you need to drag and drop these answers. So you don't type anything there. You're just going to press these things and drag and drop. Okay, so we'll go through that bit later on. Now task 4. We've done 3 tasks. Now task 4 there, processing, bookkeeping, transaction, and communicating information. This one is where the students, if they're well prepared, they shown a great improvement since last year. However, if you're not well prepared, you continue to struggle with the bookkeeping aspects of this task, not taken time to ensure from their knowledge from the other two units we've been emphasizing, because you should not forget what you learned already on your first few units. So this one is an average performance question. Students do not good if they don't revise, but if you revised well, you do very well. And this one has 22 marks. So it's a biggest question out of all overall. So this one, for example, this is from your bookkeeping question. So if they're going to look at it here, this is a policy of the Barton's Bakeries to check the statement of the accounts from the creditors, suppliers, against the accounts held in the payable ledger. So if I'm going to look at it here, here are the statement. This is the statement from TKA account, and then their own book, in their own creditors. This is what we have. They're saying here, enter the credit note and or the invoice number of the item not to be paid from the statement of accounts because they are missing from the accounts on the payable ledger. What are you going to do? You're going to quickly check those numbers off. Check those numbers off. Once you check those numbers off, what we're going to do, we're going to find which one is going to be paid and which one is going to be not paid. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time with this because you already know this two been covered on the previous unit. I'm going to discuss further what are the uniquely part of these particular unit. So now let's look at the next part. This is where the students expect to do their first writing. These questions are most likely to be based on a particular scenario, and you expect to do some sort of a communication. So that means you need to send them an email or a letter or anything, something closer to that one, or a memo. They're asking here, the finance manager informs you that a customer Nettle Limited has an invoice of 5,749.59, which is now 30 days overdue. He has prepared an email. They're saying here they left to you the note, following note for today, the 31st of March 2020 something. Yeah. Here I'm concerned that the balance on the account of Nettle Limited is overdue for 60 days. We offer strict terms of 30 days. Can you prepare a letter for me to sign, addressed to Sarah Phillips at Nettle Limited, requesting payment of 5,749.59 in relations to invoices 254 and the dated for 3rd of January 2025. Okay, 26, whichever. Account number is NET001. Please explain the situation. Ask for the payment by return. If she has any queries, please ask her to contact me directly. So this time you have to write a letter. On the next part, Royal Raglan Limited has recently started trading with a new supplier of luxury light fittings and lampshades, Diamond Lights Limited. The first order with them for 20 tall launch lamp, £45 each. The delivery note of the goods received both confirm the order received correctly, but you have received an invoice reference 2296 dated for 15th of August XX for 25 desks costing £40 each. Draft an email for the attention of Glenn Watson, the sales manager, to explain what the issue is and request the suitable action for this to be addressed. Attach relevant documentations for his attention. So how I'm going to do it? So there are two things. When it comes to writing task, there are three key things there. One of them is a content. The second one is structure. And third one is the spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Very importantly, guys, in level 2, you expect to do something simple. You don't have to write an essay here. So if you can do something similar to the same amount of email here, yeah, 3 paragraphs, like small information, but with the correct structure and spelling, you should be getting the whole 6 marks there. Most likely the content will be for 3 marks, structure 2 marks, spelling and grammar 1 mark. Or sometimes the content will be 4 marks. Structure and spelling and grammar will be 1 mark each if you already have this preset. Can you see this preset here? If they haven't given you the preset, that means you can expect the structure to go up. But if they're giving you a preset, the structure can be only 1, because how many paragraphs you're going to do, how are you going to start, how are you going to finish, like that way. So here, when I'm going to send a letter then to an email, there are key differences. When you're doing the letter, you're sending to the person called Sarah Phillips. You need to say why you're sending that letter. So you have to put a reference, say reference payment request, reference an invoice number, and say this is what it is. We understand there is an invoice now overdue for more than 60 days now. We expect prompt payment of this invoice, as we only offer strict credit terms of 30 days. Then you finish it and then saying, if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Give the name of the person who's going to doing it. So you on the bottom of it, you're going to say, because it's going to Sarah Phillips, you know the person's name, you're going to say what? Yours sincerely. If you didn't know the person's name, if you start with your dear sir or madam, you're going to say yours faithfully. So that is the important part for the letter. You need to make sure you have the correct closing salutations for them. You need to make sure the complimentary close, it has to be, if I know the person's name, is going to be yours sincerely. If I don't know the name, yours will be yours faithfully. That is very important there. Then when it comes to email, you can do dear whoever it is there, Glenn Watson. So you can say, dear Mr. Glenn Watson. Then you're going to say, I have ordered this one. I made this order on that day. This is for this item. It should be costing me £40. And then on the next paragraph saying, but we received an invoice reference 2296 on this day for 25 desks, but they were costing £40, which is a contradictory to my original order. Would you be able to make the remedy? What are you going to ask them? Would you be able to investigate this problem? Could you send us the correct invoice to remedy this situation? And then, of course, how are you going to close an email? You're going to close it at the bottom of it saying, kind regards, best wishes, warm welcome, or whatever you're going to say here. It is not as personal as you do a letter. Email is going to be a lot more, straightforward. It's not going to be like too personal there. Okay, it's just anybody send an email, anybody now. So therefore, the difference between them is how you putting the knowledge of what you learned so far. Follow a structure. Read about how you effectively write a letter and email. They're in your textbooks. And also, most importantly, make sure the complimentary close is a very important thing they check. Okay, so this will probably go for 6 marks there. Now let's do task 5. On task 5, control accounts, reconciliations, and using journals to correct accounts. This is one of the lowest performing tasks in the assessment, in which likely because it's a bookkeeping task, so many students not retain the essential knowledge required for the level 2 bookkeepings and the bookkeeping control. A lack of underlying knowledge of the bookkeeping controls often leads to poor performance in this task. It should be noted, students are who well prepared, have retained the principle of control, bookkeeping control unit, often score the maximum mark available in there. And this is what we say, they have poor performance on this one. And it's only for 10 marks. And that 10 marks can go down the drain if you've forgotten the last unit you learned, which is the bookkeeping control. So how a question will look like on that, because it's a 10-mark question. This is one of those examples. They're saying here, Royal Raglan Limited maintain a sales ledger with all the credit customers and and a purchase ledger which details all the outstanding amount due to credit suppliers. At the end of the month, a reconciliation of the control accounts is carried out, ensure the integrity of the accounting information. So they're given you here purchase day book, purchase return day book. Then you have the discount allowed day book and cash book payment. So all of those information they are given you now, they want you to fill out a purchase or payable ledger control account. So in this scenario, what if the students not learn their bookkeeping unit properly, they will miss out on easy 6 marks there, because what is the amount goes in the control accounts? Normally only the total figures. So the total figures from all of these books will go into this control account, and then the payment made to the payables on the cash payment book. Cash payment is going to be a debit, or sorry, credit in the cash book. It will be debit in the payable ledger control account. So these things, it can lead to you losing a lot of marks there. So be careful, guys. Go back and revise on that bookkeeping units thoroughly. And then the next question, the sixth one, the principle of contract law. Unlike the first 3 tasks, which I said to you, the students perform well here, this one, it is not typically good for students, because the student don't read enough of this, because they assume a lot of answers. They don't read the questions carefully and then end up giving the wrong answers. But even though students still perform well, they could do better. So they typically spend less than half the time available on this course, which is either because they have learned the syllabus content, they do very well, or have not learned this content at all. There are no borderline students at all in the sample. So therefore, what you have to remember, the students either do well or don't do well at all. So it's going to be like what? Marmite. You guys heard about Marmite? You either love it or hate it. There's no middle ground here. While this is the smallest task in the assessment covering a discrete topic area, students should be wary of ignoring this topic, as it can make a difference to overall assessment performance. I always say that. Nothing is too small for this here, guys. Do not leave the early marks. So this one is the average performance question. It carries 7 marks altogether. Is the example of one of them. Some questions we have. Okay, so then for 1 mark they are asking here, Ellie has been driving for 3 years, is now looking to sell her original car for a new model. She put a sign on her car window stating this is for sale for £2,000. In contract law, which one of the following is most accurately described this price label? Is that a quotation, an invitation to treat, an offer, or a consideration? So what do you think about it? She put a price outside in the car there. It says £2,000. It is more likely an invitation to treat. So that means the person who wants to buy the car can come and knock at the Ellie's place saying, oh, I see that there. What do you say about that? Then Ellie is going to offer, okay, I'm going to sell it for £2,000. Then that now become an offer. Whatever is written on the window, it's not yet an offer there. This is an invitation to treat. Same as what you see in a supermarket. In the supermarket, if you go to an aisle there and you're taking something from there like a bread, it says £1. That one is an invitation to treat. There is no offer or a contract based there. So when you go to your till and you scan, and then the cashier puts to the side, that is where the contract is being formed, because you have taken that offer of £1 and they have taken that money from you. Yeah, they're giving you £1 offer and you accepted it. You pay that and they accepted that one, and that is a contract. So here in this scenario, it's simply an invitation to treat. So then they're also asking here about what is these 2 true or false questions, or is it going to be an option there? They're saying here, when one of the parties does not complete their side of contract on a due date for performance, an actual or anticipatory breach has occurred. So that means they haven't completed that on the due date. It's an actual breach has been occurred. So if you think 1 month down the line they won't complete it, then will be anticipatory. But it's already finished the timeline. The due date is done. On the due date, it's not completed. So that means it's an actual breach. They should have finished that time. Then they're saying here, where is a genuine pre-estimated amount of loss suffered in the breach of contract, a penalty clause, or a liquidated damage would apply. So if I'm going to say here, a pre-estimated amount of loss suffered in the event of breach of contract, what are you going to think about it? So you're going to read about this and you're going to find me an answer for me. So you can put on the comments if you can find it. That'll be good, because for me, if I give you all the answers, maybe you probably have a quick research on that. Search it on Google. Ask ChatGPT. Not in the exam though, it won't work. In the exam, you will have no benefit at all to ask any of the AIs. Why to AI there? Now let's look at these three different varieties of types of contracts. So they are either void, valid, or voidable contracts. They all carry all different concepts here. The first thing is, if I'm going to purchase a phone contract, a 15-year-old, what type of it is? Because my daughter now, she wants to contract, contract, because she obviously can buy from the pocket money I have given her as long as she has a bank account. But they will not let her buy that directly from her account because they say she's not old enough to get a contract because she's not an adult yet. But what if there is a concern like me as a father, if I undersign that one, yes, of course, they will probably have a contract there. But in case they have bought it without my consent, that contract can be voided. If I'm not happy about it, I can ask them, could you void it for me because I am not happy with it? Because I am the legal guardian and I'm not given the authorization for my daughter to have that one because you are making a contract with an underage person. So the contract can be voided, but is it completely void? No. If I'm happy with that, I can carry on with it. It's absolutely fine. Let's look at the next one. A contract to renovate a block of flats. It's fairly straightforward, is a valid contract. But then look at the third one. Now you know why we're talking about a void contract. A contract between two parties or three parties to sell stolen goods. Straight away, these goods are obtained by an illicit mean. If it is an illicit means, you cannot have no legal basis to form a contract with them. So imagine that the great train robbers stole something from that train there and they made a contract, a pact between them to sell those goods. How good is that going to be? No, it won't be a valid contract. We call that a void contract because there is no legal basis for it. 7 marks for this, guys, just to read about this, and then you'll probably be able to find out what is expected here. Make sure do not lose your sense over this very question. Very important. You don't miss out. Now, task 7, the bookkeeping systems, receipts, payments, and importance of information and data security. Again, it is there has been slight improvement in the performance on this task compared to the last year, but it continues to be the lowest performing task in the whole assessment. This is primarily due to the scenario-based nature of the task and the requirement for students to apply knowledges to the scenario. So unfortunately, a significant proportion of the students continue to produce responses that are just generic list of advantages and disadvantages. I don't want you to have generic answers. I want you to be extraordinary here. Try to think out of the box. Just trying to put a scenario where you can apply that particular situation. Do not think, oh, I'm going to lose money. That is not a good explanation. If I'm going to say, oh, this is going to give me good profit. Again, it's not a good explanation. You need to say, how are we going to? Why is that? What could happen if that changes? Make sure, be very specific. Be very thorough with your purpose there, what they're asking you. But also remember, they don't expect you to write an essay. Do not worry about thinking about if they ask you to tell you a state or suggest. Do not go into analyze and evaluate. You don't need to do that for level 2. You are basically expect to state. I'll show you the questions later on. Without any consideration of the specific issues described in the scenario. Information is never provided in the assessment without a purpose. Students would perform better if they took each piece of information provided in the scenario and considered why it may have been provided and how it should impact their response. So when I see a question, I know how the students are thinking, but I also know why they're thinking like that way. This is because they do not lack that critical thinking. They're scared. Sometimes we see a question, you haven't expected that, you're scared. Don't worry, guys, you are not alone. There will be loads of other students exactly thinking the same way you are doing as well. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. What you need to do, just take your time. Absorb the questions like a sponge. You look through the important keywords there And those keywords can play a huge part in your answer. So let's see one here. This one is the poor performance, and it got 10 marks. Again, it's only 10 marks, but it's only part of it's going to be written. So here, for example, this question has been paid out to the students there. So they're saying a director of Bobble Limited have been looking at digital technology and the value of the management information they are supplied with. As the business grows, more workers are remote. It has been suggested that the cloud-based accounting software could provide them with more useful information and improve the company system as it develops. So here we are looking at the turn of 21st century. Now we're talking about digital technology. Of course we are. Why? Because the old style manual accounting system is like ancient dinosaurs, like myself, I feel like, oh, I'm a dinosaur in the new AI age there, even though I'm got very good background in digital technology. Still, I feel like I'm very outdated. What is that telling you? You need to make sure you don't stop at your CPD. You're continuously professional developing yourself. You need to learn the new technology. And then also you need to be tech savvy in certain aspects. You don't need to be an expert, but you should know what are the key words to use here. So they're giving you the first answer, first question there. Suggest 3 ways that the cloud-based accounting could help the directors and the accounting department. So what are you going to say about the cloud accounting? First thing you're going to say here, by basing the accounting in cloud-based software, it makes it accessible from anywhere with credentials. That is really good because the directors want to be on top of your information there. So you're going to give them the first one. You can control it from anywhere as long as you have that right credentials. They'll be happy about that. You know what? I don't have to go and make a visit to my office. What else you can tell them? Then the second thing, you emphasize on the credential. That means only people with correct credentials can access the right area of your software. That means not everybody can be everywhere. A director can probably see everything. A sales ledger clerk can look at the sales ledger. They won't have access to every other departments. That is really good. You see, that is the 3 ways they're going to look at it. Now look at the third way. Third way also we're going to look at it. It is real time. So whenever they're going to enter something in the system, you can also see that at the same time. There are multiple answers there. There's no 3 fixed answers. But what are you going to do? You're going to say that from the perspective of the directors. You're not going to talk about the employees here. You're going to talk about the directors because they are the one. They are the objective nurture. They are not the subject. They are the objects. Yeah. So we're going to suggest them. I don't want to write an essay here. Be careful with that, guys. Sometimes if 10 words suffice, 10 words will do. Don't go to 50 words. No, you will get the same 1 mark there for 3 of them. So you do 30 words, you'll be absolutely fine. Be careful, as I said to you, do not write 1-word answers. They won't get you anything. Yeah, you need to suggest. So you need to do a bit of a explaining, a bit of a. Then they're asking you, state 2 possible risks of using cloud-based accounting. So now you're going to say state. You're not going to explain. You're going to tell them what it is. One of them is what? Data security. We can say it needs to be properly secure. Firewall. Yes. And then also, most importantly, you need to have an internet connection. That is the possible risks, isn't it? So if you don't have internet, you can't do anything with it. So that is a risk you're going to take. You're hoping you have internet connection 24/7 wherever you're in the globe. So if you're in the jungle in Amazon, you can't expect to have that same thing. Okay, so third one here, the management of Bobble Limited have raised the concern that an increased reliance on the digital accounting software will put the company's data security at risk. Provide example of the measures Bobble Limited can take to address these concerns. So straight away, we're going to talk about this company, what they're going to do. That means they have to make sure they have a secure accounting or like a secure computer system by having an antivirus software which is regularly updated. Hire somebody who's specialized in data security within the business so they can probably oversee all the process. And then also educate the employees regularly with the importance of the data security, like strong password, updating the softwares, and then also regular backups. Those are the extra things you need to do. All you need to do, examples. They're asking you 3 examples. 3 words answers are fine here. If you say data security, we updated virus software, training and guidance, strong passwords, they all count as a marks there. So be careful, guys. If you get a question like that way, you count your blessings, because what you need to do is just follow the cue. Read the questions carefully and answer what they're actually asking you. Now, we move on to the last one. The external business environment. That was for students perform well. They typically complete this task less than half the time available, and the performance on the task is very good. The students may benefit from taking extra few minutes to ensure they read the every task here carefully. But it's on a good note, because we're going to finish with a good question. That means students perform well. But then that is another thing as well. If you think you're stuck on 7th question, do the task 8 first and go back to the 7th one, because you can do a bit of a time with the writing. Do it last. Go to this question, finish it, and come back again. And this one got 14 marks. It can give you 14 marks on the final task there. So let's have a look at that, some examples. This is all about external business environment. So they're going to talk about macroeconomic, microeconomic environment, GDP. They're going to talk about what is that, the cycles, the economic cycle. They're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about the currency appreciation and depreciation. So many things there they will discuss, but they're all theoretical. It's nothing you can't achieve with if if you read all of this very carefully, and you will be absolutely fine. So let's look at some questions here. Indicate whether the following statements are true or false by ticking the relevant box there. 4 marks for that. See that here? These are that easy. You only have to have a true or false. You see, even if you don't know the answers, all I say to my students, you get a 50-50 chance. You still don't leave that to your luck. Trying to improve that to 100 to 0. Do not chance it here, guys. Every one of them is 50-50. There's a possibility you get all of them wrong, or it's a possibility you get all of them right. So let's go through it. When interest rate increases, consumers will spend more rather than save. It makes no sense. If you have good interest rates, why would I spend my money? I'll rather put in the bank and it will earn an interest. I feel like, oh, I'm going to save. That statement is wrong. High inflation typically results in increased consumer spending. Imagine that. Now the petrol price is going up. Do you think I'm going to go and fill my tank up 100% when the price is really high? Makes no sense at all, isn't it? That the typically when you have a high inflation, people are kind of reluctant to spend their money. They're thinking they're not getting the right value for it. So again, in this scenario, it's false. Lower taxes typically results in increased consumer spending. Absolutely. Lower taxes mean your income, means your retained income is going to be higher. So your surplus income can be spent, customer more than happy to spend. Statement is absolutely fine. Increase in direct taxes typically results in decrease in supply. So what is the meaning of indirect tax? Indirect tax is what? It is going to be VAT. So if they're saying the increasing of the VAT typically results in decrease in supply, no. Indirect tax won't affect your supply for any reason. Why? Because the VAT is going to be refundable for the suppliers anyway. So why they're going to be worrying about it? So that statement is wrong. Now let's look at the next part. Indicate in the table below whether the following statements are true or false. Interest is added to the money borrowed. Is it right? If you don't pay the money back, of course, it's going to increase the money you owed. Imagine that you've taken a loan, you don't pay your the loan back. What is happening next month? They will tack on an interest there. So that is increasing the amount you borrowed unless you start paying it. Okay, so that statement is true. Business have some element of control over microeconomic climate. That is all about the microeconomical, because businesses have some control over it. They cannot have it on the macroeconomical. For the microeconomical, business has some control. So that is true. The government will try and ensure that employment levels are as high as possible. Absolutely. That is their job. The government normally comes into power. One of their key pledges will be reducing the unemployment, creating more job opportunities to the people and the workforce. Then, of course, and that is what they try to do. If they do it oppositely, then they're not going to be a successful government. They will not get re-elected. So that statement is true. A boom in the economy occurs when the GDP decreases. That is wrong. When the GDP increases, there will be a boom. Means you have more gross domestic product. So the GDP decreases when you have a recession. Okay, so that statement is wrong. Now let's look at this as well. This is also similar on the task there. They're asking here 3 marks for that. You have to choose which one it is there. A competitive market leads to lower cost, lower productivity, lower product margin. If you have a competitive global market leads to what? Is it going to be a lower cost, lower productivity, or lower profit margin? It's going to be a profit margin because they're all competitive to give you the lower price possible. So they're going to eat into that profit margin. But that means the consumer is getting the best. If the exchange rate change from £1 to $1.25 to £1 to $1.30, the pound has what? Is it appreciated, depreciated, or strengthened against the dollar? The right word we use here is appreciated. We don't use the word strengthen here. It should have been, it changed from $1.25 to $1.30. That means I'm getting more dollar for my pounds. Therefore, my pound has appreciated. UK business that exports goods will benefit, will not impact from the fall in the value of pound. So if I'm going to lose value of my pound, I will be benefited by exporting goods. Why? Because my pound, because it's weaker, I'm going to get paid by a stronger currency and I will get more value for my pounds. So if I am stronger, it's good for me to import them instead of exporting them. So if the pound value is strong, if I'm exporting it, I'm going to get paid by a weaker currency. Weaker currency means I will get less pound or less bang for my buck. That's how the economy works. Because normally, if my currency is strong, I like to import because I am paying with a stronger currency. So for me, I'm getting more value. But if my currency is weak, I rather export it instead of taking from outside. I will send it out. That means I will get paid by the stronger currency. So I'll get more money in my own currency. Okay, that's how the economy works. Now the last part here, indicate the following in the below table, whether they're going to be the risks they're talking about. First one is reputation risk, competition risk, compliance risk, financial risk, or political and economic uncertainty. So they're here, they're giving you some of them are risk and some of them, last one is going to be uncertainty. Which one is what? Bad reviews on the social media. What are you going to talk about? Like if I had a bad experience with some of the people I go like eating out with, I'm not happy with their food. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put a message on Facebook trashing that establishment. That's going to be a reputational risk, isn't it? Because for them, their names can't be slandered. So that is a reputational risk. Cost of software subscription. What is that going to do? Are we going to pay for it or not pay for it? It's money. Money means it's a financial risk. If my computer systems are hacked, what's going to happen? I lose my data. I lose customer data. What is that going to do? It's going to be a compliance because I wasn't compliant in protecting my customers' data. Therefore, that is a compliance risk. And what is the tax rate increase? If I'm going to talk about the tax rates, what we're going to talk about, this is something I have no control over. It is done by the government. If that is government is going to be announcing it, it's going to be political and economic uncertainty because that tax rate, which we have no control over whatsoever. Okay. So this is the types of questions you hear in this exam. So let's check the chat there. Anybody come back with an answer? Yes, you got it, guys. It is liquidated damage. So it could not be the other one. Let me check the question again. Where it is? That one? Yeah. It is going to be, if they're saying a genuine pre-estimated amount for the loss suffered in the event of a breach of contract, because we already have predetermined that one, this is going to be what we call a liquidated damages. So if you're going to chase a search that on Google, you'll be able to find a great explanation about it as well. Okay, so well done, guys. Thank you for attending today's session. I certainly appreciate your time, you guys, spending in these sessions, and it does go a long way. And